Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and the government. Oh, yeah. So, you want to talk about happy, fun, sexy time? Let's talk about Emma, the Maryland Market Advantage. This is the list of a lot of the government contractors that are out there. They call it the procurement process. I call it the corruption process. Because these are the people who ultimately enable these politicians who get reelected or elected, and it just keeps happening over and over and over again. This is the jackpot, baby. This is how I'm going to differentiate myself between myself and the local news who refuses to tell the truth about what's going on with our taxes. Now they'll touch the surface, but have you ever heard them talk about the SAM system, SAM.gov? You ever heard Fox News Channel or Newsmax or even OAN talk about the SAM.gov? No, you haven't. Ask yourself why. Why do people who claim to have your back and have your best interest in mind, how come they've never talked about these databases that have been out there for years, if not decades, and you don't even hear about them? You ever heard them talk about usajobs.gov? You ever heard them they talk about all these, these public universities and these colleges are teaching people wrong and they're wasting money and blah, blah, blah. You ever heard them talk about Verizon, Skill Forward, edX? No. Why is that? Again, these media companies claim to have our backs, to get our eyeballs, to get our attention, to get our ears. But in reality, they're just scratching the surface at an 8th grade reading level. And quite frankly, it pisses me off. I'll leave links below to these databases, but if you stay tuned to the Baltimore Informer, the Baltimore County Informer, whatever it is, I'm just going to probably call it Baltimore Informer from here on out. Baltimore Informer is going to inform you about what's going on. We're going to inform you about who owns these politicians. I'm going to name names, might even name addresses. Maybe not. I am still a little bit on the privacy side because I don't like my address being out there. But the names and the name of the companies and tying everything together. Because here's the thing. The Baltimore Informer doesn't have to leech off these politicians' ads. In fact, I don't want any of their money. As far as I'm concerned, the payment that I get is the satisfaction knowing that these people's private details that they want to keep from the public, even though we should know about them, and even though they're technically in public databases, these journalists either they don't have the time, the inclination, or both to go through these databases and let us know how people like Dutch Ruppersberger and Kwasi Mfume and now John Olszewski Jr., who I ran against 3 years ago in the Democratic primary, we need to know who owns these people. How do these people get $500,000 worth of donations the first day they run for office? Inquiring minds want to know. And inquiring minds are gonna find out, baby. Yes, they are. Because now I'm getting into the nitty gritty where people don't normally tread. Well, I'm gonna tread. These tires are gonna be bald like my head by the time I'm through with it all.